Hello and welcome everyone, my name is Capcan and today we're gonna be looking at potential League Starter for 3.22 if nothing gets nerfed or nothing gets changed too much. This is of course Lightning Arrow Deadeye, which was one of the most popular builds and skills in 3.21. I seriously doubt that it wouldn't get nerfed or changed somehow, and that we wouldn't see definitely some changes for the Lightning Arrow or for Val Lightning Arrow, maybe for the Deadeye itself. But so this video and all the videos that are pre-patch notes on this channel are gonna be just a theoretical video, so that's a potential starters and stuff like this, where we will go through why skills are bad, how they are building, just for you to get an idea of the character that you may potentially want to start. But that's not a complete build guide, and the build guides are gonna be after patch notes on my channel. So yeah, here we go. Lightning Arrow Deadeye. Why is it so good? Why is it so popular? Was so popular. It was something close to 7, 8, 9% of population on Crucible Softcore Trade League. So one of top 3 or top 5 100% skills. Top 3 if I recall correctly. So basically, a Lightning Arrow is a quite good skill for AoE clear. It has good good AoE, good range. The character that you're building with it is very fast. It's a very good map clearer, map farmer that you can slap a headhunter on or mage blood and get a ton of value out of it. It has a bunch of additional projectiles from the tree, from the, as we can see here, bow fires. An additional arrow from the ascendancy as well, so you really don't need to have any specific weapon with additional projectiles or stuff like that. All that you need is just a good elemental DPS bow, your skill, and then you're very fast, you're clearing very efficiently. And for magic find, for straight up fast map clearing and farming, stuff like that, it's very efficient, and that's why it was so popular. It doesn't require so much investment as Tornado Shot, which means that it's cheaper. That's why it's a more of a league start, even though you can still stick with it and have an absolute blast. Many people then go for maybe Kinetic Blast, maybe Tornado Shot, maybe some other builds, or more single target oriented, and they go farm bosses. This build is definitely not a boss farmer because it lacks on defenses. Its single target DPS is not best as well, even though it's pretty okay. But the main thing here is it's AoE clear, and that's just, and it's quite cheap to start with. It's quite powerful with addition of Val Lightning Arrow that was presented to us in patch 3.21. So I guess that's where that's where my preview of the build ends. Basically, if you want to have fast mapper and nothing changes too much with bow equipment, the Deadeye itself, or Lightning Arrow and Val Lightning Arrow, then you're probably good to go playing and starting with this skill in the next league. But there may be balance changes again, so you need to recheck everything, look up at the patch notes, and if there will be any changes and it will still be playable, there will be a build guide on this channel. So I guess let's go and quickly run through the character tree, jewels, skills, items, and stuff like that. So this is made out of the real character that was present on day 1 on the ladder, or day 2. Day 2 on the ladder. So it was proven as a pretty good map clearer. It has some items on it, some jewels. So basically let's go. We are taking as much movement speed, mana reservation, some life, elemental damage, crit strike, chance crit strike damage, as much bow attacks, fire, and additional projectile as weapon can possibly get. Then some spell suppression, some life leech and mana leech, and here we have some leech being instant as well. Then we are taking power charges. We are going for most bow talents that give us again either damage, attack speed, or crit strike chance, crit strike damage. And yeah, that's basically it. Then we are taking some attribute talents for us to have omniscience, crystallized omniscience, and for it to work. As you can see here, instead we do have omniscience. I'm gonna talk about the item a bit later. Yeah, this is an item that really gives this build a pretty big chunk of its damage, even though without it, it's still more than playable. Yeah, and that's mostly it. Then with our ascendancy, we're taking tailwind, then we're taking skill chains, then we're taking additional projectiles and increased effect of our marks with them transferring to other enemies and stuff like that. Then when it comes to our main skill, and skills overall, we're taking Vol Lightning Arrow. Vol version is very, very powerful on single target. And your regular Lightning Arrow is your regular AoE clearing skill. Then we're taking Mirage Archer for better clear and yeah, for being able to play faster. Trinity for penetration and elemental damage, damage with attacks, increased crit damage because we will have a pretty high crit strike chance, and Inspiration for crit chance reduces to mana cost and additional elemental damage. Then when it comes to our mobility and some other skills, as we can see here, we do have a Blink Arrow, we do have Mark on Hit and Sniper's Mark, so they will be automatically used, even though Sniper's Mark with Mark on Hit may cost quite a good amount of mana. We will have enough for it to go off. Then we're taking Anger for additional fire damage, flat fire damage in this case. Then we are using Mana Forged arrows with Frenzy, Culling Strike, and Power Charge and Crit. This way we are generating Frenzy charges automatically, because Mana Forged arrows, it's whenever you're spending mana cost on your bow attacks, it automatically fires this Mana Forged arrows that is Frenzy, and with Power Charge and Crit it will give us both Power Charges and Frenzy charges. We do have Culling Strike here as well, just to deal final blows to the enemies. We do have our second setup, our second 6 link with Focused Ballista, Lightning Arrow, Added Cold, Elemental Damage with attacks, and Ballista Totem. And then Precision, so you don't even need to have 6 link, but anyways you can do that with then transferring Precision somewhere else. And yeah, we're using here Ballista setups for additional single target damage, of course. With Precision just being a good aura that reserves flat amount of mana and that gives us additional accuracy and some crit strike chance. And then in our final 4 link, we do have Frost Blink, Steel Skin, Purity of Elements, and Berserk. So Purity of Elements for you to not care about elemental ailments. It gives you immunity, it gives you additional LD resistances that you may be struggling a little bit with if you're using Crystallized Omniscience, depends on your setup and on your gear as well. Then we do have Steel Skin as our guard skill, and Frost Blink just for us to dodge even more. Then when it comes to our items, we do have our Spine Bow. It's very good base for crit oriented bows. It has a just high elemental DPS, and that's it. Then our Quiver is bow attacks, fire, and additional damage, which is very nice, but you can live without it. Crit strike, multi-chance, and some increased elemental damage with attacks. Then Vol's Vision gives us life regeneration, flat 400. It gives us some armor as well. Yeah, but basically it's very important for this 400 regeneration, as we're using Chaos Spirit, which changes our life regen to rage regen, and that's how we're generating our rage, by converting our life regen to rage regen. And it gives us some maximum life and stuff like that as well. Then with our helmet, then with our body armor, it's High-Risk Ire. It gives us a bunch of flat cold damage to bow attacks that are socketed in it. It gives us a chance to suppress spell damage and a bunch of evasion rating as well. With our boots, we're just using maximum movement speed. As you can see here, it's 25% even. It's the second day of the league, so it's not that powerful. But you want more movement speed, resistances, some maximum life, and some attributes, dexterity, preferable here. Then as our amulet, we are using Crystallized Omniscience, and it allocates Vengeance Cascade, which probably will be either murdered or nerfed in new patch, as Vengeance Cascade was a completely busted mechanic in 3.21. It's Fury of Nature. So here's our Vengeance Cascade. Attack projectiles return to you. Returning projectiles pierce all targets. So that was bonkers. It basically give you double damage on your projectile attacks, and we're using projectile attack with lightning arrow here. So yeah, probably you wouldn't allocate Vengeance Cascade. It's very, very likely that it will get nerfed, but even without it, it's still pretty good. The Crystallized Omniscience itself gives you a bunch of elemental penetration, resistances, and it Omniscience covers your attributes. So basically everything takes omniscience for you to be able to use, rather than you need to have specific amount of strength or intelligence or dexterity and stuff like that. And yeah, the only thing that you need to have is you need to have a bunch of flat attributes, and then with percentage it will multiply and it will give you just the amount. You need to get just the amount of omniscience for you to be able to use all your items. As you can see here, for example, Hyresire costs 938 omniscience to being able to equip, which is pretty high, but you need it for your defensive stats, for your offensive stats. It's the main reason why you're using this quite expensive amulet. And then when with our rings, we see here a bunch of attributes, some flat cold damage, some flat elemental damage to attacks, accuracy rating, no life even here, and then with this ring, it's synthesized to have percentage increase to dexterity. So this build definitely makes a big choice in increasing your dexterity, as we do have some percentage talents for it. We do have this base, this synthesized base here, but you don't really need to get only dexterity. All attributes are pretty good for this. It's just a day 2 setup, so it's quite early into the league. Again, some elemental damage to attacks, resistances if you are not at cap of them, and then some maximum life. With belt, we're using, again, as you can see here, it's synthesized. It has increased dexterity percentage. Otherwise, you would need to get that attribute in other places. It has some intelligence here, maximum life, some regeneration for additional rage regen, and increased elemental damage with attacks. So yeah, everything is... This build guide is more for you to understand why are we getting stats that we are getting. If you don't have a character that can be as robust as this one, it's not a problem. You wouldn't be able to deal with all the content that the build itself that presented here can, but you will still have a playable character. There is literally none of these items that you need to have in order to farm pretty fast and efficiently with Lightning Arrow and Vol Lightning Arrow. Even though, for example, Crystallized Omniscience, which is pretty costly, you don't need it. You can live without it pretty good, and you will be fine. You will have a bunch of currency farmed easy with Lightning Arrow. Again, if it's not gonna be nerfed. So yeah, build itself works without all these synthesized bases and stuff like that. So yeah. And then with our flasks, we are taking Divine Life Flask that gives you immunity to Bleeding Corrupted Blood, because we do have only elemental immunities. Diamond Flask for crit strike, Granite for some additional armor. So as you can see here, we do have some armor here, but without the determination, it will be a bit harder for us to get it. Then Jade Flask and Quicksilver Flask. So Jade gives us evasion rating, Quicksilver for the speed. Then in terms of our jewels, as you can see here, this rarity 10, it's a Watcher's Eye. It's just one from the reliquary. That doesn't give you any additional properties. So here we do have crit strike multiplier while affected by anger, which is very, very important and very, very powerful for us, and that's the only modifier that is valuable here. So chance to block spell damage while affected by discipline. We don't have discipline, and we're not using purity of fire, and we're immune to all elemental ailments anyway. So crit multi is the thing here that we want. Then yeah, maximum life is just general Watcher's Eye stats. Thread of Hope, it's with a large radius. I'm sorry. So yeah, again, some minus elemental resistances for using this one. You don't need it. Again, it's not build enabling, but it gives you an ability to get all these talents without you having a need to connect them through small ones. So basically, Aspect of the Eagle, Multi-Shot, Master Fletcher, One with Nature, you can get these talents, and Piercing Shots, you can get these talents for 1 talent point only, not using the ones that are on the path to them, and that costs you using this Thread of Hope, which is quite it's quite pricey, but again, you can not use it. You will have more resistances, so it will be easier for you to cap the resistances without it, and it opens this socket for you to use Inspired Learning, maybe any other regular jewel that is cheaper and stuff like that. And then Lionized Fall, yeah, so it is here. Melee and melee weapon type modifiers transform to bow modifiers. So basically all these dagger ones and all these claw ones are now a bow modifiers, and here with claws we're getting a bunch of attack speed and damage, and with dagger ones we're getting crit strike chance and crit strike multiplier. So that's why Lionized Fall, this place here for Lionized Fall, is the best place on the whole map. And we're getting critical strikes, have Culling Strike with Dagger Mastery simultaneously, so you can really open yourself a socket here. So yeah, it's basically this character. Where was it? Yeah, with Frenzy, you cannot use Cooling Strike here because you have Cooling Strike, and then you have open place for 6 link to your Lightning Arrow Ballista totem, and Precision can go into that particular place. So yeah, that's it with Lightning Arrow. Thanks for watching. Hope you're having a good time and you're preparing to the 322. Definitely subscribe to this channel because there will be a bunch of content about all these things. Yeah, have a good day and goodbye.